Welcome to the Aceman, everybody. It's time to go behind the funny. This is Scott Higgins.
And this is Ace Aceto.
And thank you for joining us. Thank you for downloading us. Thank you for subscribing. We appreciate it so very much. And if you have a moment, please give us that 5-star written review wherever you download your podcast. It's a great way to help the podcast. If you want to help us out another way, tell a friend. We all learn about podcasts from our friends' recommendations, and that's a way you can help us out by recommending us to a friend.
And the last way, if you really enjoy the show, is to go to our Patreon page and become a patron. And that is at www.patreon.com/behindthefunny. And what that will get you, it's one simple giving level, $5 a month. That will get you a t-shirt or a mug, some sort of merchandise, as well as unlocking bonus content that only our patrons can access.
Thank you so much for supporting us. If you want to reach out, you got a question for us, you got a comment, anything, please send us an email at behindthefunnypod@gmail.com.
And now, enjoy the show.
Be careful.
He's and Scott Higgins, both of them coked up out of their minds.
Listen to you. He's down in the basement.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
I think we should call this the Acement.
The Acement,
Yeah,
yes.
what do you think there, huh?
I like that. The Acement Studios.
Excuse me, I'm drinking beer. Hold on a second.
We usually drink bourbon on our end
Yeah,
when we
right.
do the podcast, so
That's all right.
feel free to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You shoot an 8-ball if you want. We don't care, as long as it's good stories.
And thank you for joining us, everybody. We appreciate you all tuning in this week. We got a great episode for you, as we try to have every single week. And joining us this week is our bourbon date, Weller Special Reserve, Pappy Van Winkle's younger cousin.
I don't even know how
You
to
don't know
fucking
how to
respond.
what to say
I don't even know what to
anymore.
say. You change it every time. You didn't say welcome to the Acement. It's time to go behind the funny. You're
Because that's kind of said in the opening credits.
Okay.
So,
All
you
right.
know, I don't have to
it
always
also
say
says we drink bourbon in the opening credits, but you just
I like the bourbon more than I do the welcome to
the Acement. All right. I get it.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, buddy. Clinkies. Yeah, we drank down the reserves that we had based on a couple of weeks ago. Thank God a couple of weeks ago when we had the panel show, everyone drank. So
Yeah, when you had five
comics talking about SNL season 10, we ended up finishing pretty much everything else
we
off.
polished off quite a bit, but hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. Hopefully you enjoyed our conversation with Mike Cateo, who was a fun episode for us, getting to know him.
Yeah.
Very, very fun guy, very interesting guy, great story. So that was a lot of fun.
And you know what? It's funny because, you know, we've been saying for the past couple of years, hey, if you know of a comic in your area, you know,
Exactly.
we'd love to get to know comics from elsewhere around the country. And that's what I love about the past couple of weeks. Last week, it was Mike Cateo, who was from Staten Island, lives in New Jersey. I love how after we got off the air, he was like, you know, every time you guys said I was from New Jersey, a little piece of me died inside. He goes, I just live here. I'm not from here.
Yeah, I
You
know.
As if Staten Island was anything better.
I was
you
going to
know?
say, like, big difference.
Yeah, right, exactly. But no. So Mike was someone that we found, you know, and then Scott found our guest tonight based on, and we've talked about this. We love
His
having
podcast.
people on who are on, you know, who have other podcasts and talk about, you know, how they got started. And
Well, because as our listeners know, one of our favorite things is our question we ask our guests at the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
Their funny bad gig story.
Right.
This guy has a podcast based on people doing that all the time.
Right.
The Art of Bombing.
I love
which
that.
I love the concept of this podcast.
Yeah.
And when you listen to it, it is so well done because people don't understand truly bombing in comedy.
Right.
You can learn from, like, we laugh about it because we love those stories and they're funny, but you can learn from it. You get better from it. You know, there's so many nuances to bombing.
Well, and I think what's interesting too is people don't think famous people bomb.
Oh,
You know, they think that it's only new comics that bomb, and every comic has bombed.
watch Comedian with Jerry Seinfeld, the documentary he
Right.
made. He shows himself bombing after he got off the show Seinfeld.
Right. Yeah, when he first got back
When he
into
first started,
stand-up.
when he started to write a new act.
Yeah.
When he went back to stand up and full time and everything. You know, everybody bombs.
Yeah.
You know, at some point doing new material, being in a strange place, whatever it is.
Right.
And, you know, discussing that and the nuances of it is so interesting.
Yeah.
You know, so when I saw this podcast, I was like, Ace, you got to check this out.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
got to get this guy on. So
Yep.
we have him on tonight. So I'm excited.
And so we want to welcome to the Behind the Funny podcast, Mr. Dan Bublitz Jr. There he is.
Hey, how's it
Dan.
going? Thank you
thanks.
for the kind words.
Yeah, hey, that's what we do. We want our guests to feel comfortable.
Look at him with the professional setup, with the
No
nice
shit.
boom, the nice mic.
I know.
And everything like that. We look like shit
I
compared
know.
to
We
that.
look like we're at a fucking half-ass news desk.
He's like, it's 15:15 the hour. Weather and traffic coming up next.
He's got a
Giving
real
me
nice
too much
mic.
credit over here.
No. So thanks for coming on. And like I said, Scott found you, you know, by listening to your podcast. So we want to start a little bit at the beginning. When did you start doing comedy?
So I started comedy in 2010.
Okay.
It was September of 2010 is when I started comedy.
Ace, he's
So-
a baby.
I know.
Yeah.
He's a baby.
I wasn't going to say
12
it, but
years
yeah.
in, I'm still a baby.
12 years. Yeah, I know. Well, I know. Well, he's been
21 years.
21 years, and for me, it'll be 34 in July. I started in
I am a baby.
1989.
Cares?
Yeah. Yeah, but you know what? It doesn't matter because we've all bombed, and that's
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
That's what, you know, that's the great thing about
Yeah.
comedy is that's the great equalizer.
So 2010,
Yeah.
that first time on stage, what was the thing that made you want to try it the first time? Was it a dare or was it a lifelong dream?
It was more of something I kind of always wanted to do and just never did. When people ask me this question, I always answer with, it was a divorce. I mean, that's really what propelled me into comedy.
Yeah.
Was it really?
It really was. I mean, I got married very young,
Yeah,
and
okay.
I was married for 12 years, and we got divorced, and I just felt like I had wasted 12 years
12
of my
years.
life. My whole 20s was in a marriage, and I just made a decision. I made a conscious decision not to waste any more time in my life, that I was going to try things. Didn't matter if I was good at them or if I failed or whatever. I wanted to be a person that looked back on life and thought, you know, when you ask that question, what if? I don't want that question. I want to know, you know, there isn't going to be a what if. I'm going to know what the results are. I'm not going to look back on life and wonder, well, what if I would have did comedy? Now
Wow.
I'm going to know. So
Yeah.
I made that decision, and then I started writing.
Were you funny when you were growing up? Were you like the funny kid in class, or were you the funny one in your family, or?
I mean, I think within my friends group, I was always kind of funny because I was always sarcastic, and I kind of used sarcasm and humor to fight off bullies. It's pretty cliche, but
Classic.
Yeah.
yeah, it's very cliche. But when people would pick on me, I was very mouthy.
Yeah.
And maybe that's my little guy complex because you know I'm a short little guy. I've always been, and when people would make fun of me, I would just make fun of them back, you know, or
Yeah.
I'd make fun of myself with it.
That's-
It's like you're not going to say anything I won't say about myself, and
Exactly.
take your power away. So
That's what I did, Dan, is when the bullies would come after me in 4th grade, 5th grade, they would make a joke and I'm like, is that the best you have? Because I would have said this, and I would say something funnier than they did about myself.
Right.
I would one up them, you know, and be funnier than them till they would just turn around and walk away.
And Scott
You know?
said that was his superpower against bullies was humor, you know, and
Yep.
and I didn't even realize I did the same thing. I just wasn't bullied as much, I guess, as you. But that was the way to get around them.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But the funny thing is that with me doing comedy, I had to overcome my fear of public speaking. Now, growing up, while within my friends group, I could be, outgoing and bubbly or whatever. But when it come to public speaking, if I had to do like speeches in class or any kind of class assignments that involved me talking in front of the class, I was not good at it. I was very nervous. I would get very, stuttery, and I look down, and I do all the things that a person who is nervous would do. Public speaking. And so that was another thing with doing comedy for me. It was getting over a fear. Part of it was comedy was something I always wanted to do, but it was also I need to get over this fear of public speaking.
Public speaking, I used to belong to Toastmasters, which is a public speaking club that a lot of people will join just to get over that fear. And they say it in every meeting. They're like, the fear of public speaking is the number one fear. Like, people aren't even as afraid to die as they are afraid to get up and speak in front of people.
Seinfeld had a joke about that.
Oh, yeah.
That the number one fear is public speaking. Number two is death. So most people, if they're at a funeral, would rather be in the casket than standing on side of it talking about it.
Right. Yeah.
That's a great joke.
Yeah, right.
I can't.
He's pretty good.
I can't Seinfeld it up as well as he did.
No,
but that was the basic.
I'd rather be in the casket.
And when you think about it, he's kind of right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's dead on. So how did you come over, overcome that fear of public speaking? Because, you think about it when it comes to comedy, not only do we have to overcome the fear of public speaking, we tack on making people laugh on top of it. So that's even, more of a fear.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, any fear, the only way to truly overcome a fear is to face it. And so for me, it was getting on stage. That's how I overcame it. And it wasn't, I was very nervous the first time I went on stage. I was very nervous the second time I went on stage. I was nervous the third and fourth, and and the more I got on stage, the less nervous I would be, and now, sometimes I have the nerves, before I go on stage, but it's not the fear of public speaking. Now it's, am I going to do good or am I going to bomb? What's this crowd? How's this crowd going to react to me? So am I going to get this tape I need to submit for a festival or whatever it is?
Right.
So there's so many other things that are in my head. That's where the nerves come from now. It's not that I'm afraid of public speaking anymore, but that was just, doing it over time.
And so that first time you got up on stage, what was it? Was it an open mic night? Was it a contest? Was it a local restaurant?
So it's combination. It was a open mic night, but it was kind of a bringer contest. But I didn't know any of them terms because this is my first. To me, it's just an open mic. But it was a monthly open mic contest. It was essentially a bringer. I mean, if you're going to win, you needed to bring people to applaud for you and vote for you or whatever.
Right.
But it was just, and I started in a smaller market. I started in South Dakota, and my first open mic was at a comedy club. Doesn't even exist anymore. It was called Fat Daddy's Comedy Club. Yep. And it was in the basement of this bar, Lucky's. Lucky's, the bar, still there.
It's still there.
And interesting enough, they turned the basement where the comedy club used to be kind of into a speakeasy. And now I have a friend that's producing shows down there. So there's comedy in that basement again.
That's funny. That's crazy.
Not the same comedy club, but it's still, they're still doing comedy down there, which is crazy to me now. But
wow.
So it was just like an open mic contest, I think I got like 5 minutes, the typical 5 or 6 minutes.
Right. And how'd you do?
I didn't advance. I did fine. That's the one thing that, like, with my first time doing comedy, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. It was just a good middle ground. I got some laughs. I had some fun. I was super nervous. I did it, got that adrenaline rush. I mean, I remember when they called my name and I walked out on stage, I grabbed the mic, I looked into the audience, and I thought, oh my God, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
Why did I sign up for this?
Oh, yeah.
And then I proceeded to tell a joke, and I got a laugh or a chuckle, And then I told some more, and I got some more laughs, and I was just like, all right, this is what I want to do.
Yep.
I'm addicted.
That's all it takes is that first, I think, real laugh that you get. I still remember, same thing, Comedy Connection, Faneuil Hall in Boston, and I'm up there and I'm going along and I'm like, I got 5 minutes, as we all did when we first started, and I'm about 2 minutes in and I got chuckles at best, maybe, and then I got a laugh, a real laugh, and you're like, oh, damn, that was awesome. And that was it. I'm like, I gotta come. When can I come back? When's the next time I can sign up again?
When am I headlining this room?
Yeah. I got this. When do I get paid?
Yep.
When do I get paid for this shit?
Sad part is how many people have come up to us
Oh
and
my
said
God.
that. Yeah.
That's
Didn't you say you did an open? Was it an open mic?
It
or
was
a
at
showcase?
the Station nightclub.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
There used to be a well, I'm sure you've heard of it. Unfortunately, the club in Rhode Island that burned down where
100 people
passed
died.
away.
The Great White Concert.
The Great White Concert.
Yeah.
They used to do a comedy open mic on Wednesdays, and we had a regular crew that went there every Wednesday night and did it, and I was one of the guys that went there. And we had this guy that showed up one week. Never did comedy anywhere else before. I don't think he ever did after that either.
Yeah.
He shows up with a bunch of his buddies. They sign him up. He goes up there, and he had the best set of the night because he brought the entire crowd.
Right.
You know, one of those.
Yep.
So they're more laughing at him than with him because
But in his
know.
mind, they're laughing at him.
Oh, he was crushed. So he gets off stage. He goes up to the books and he goes, "Hey, when do I get paid?" and the guy Flynn's was like, "Excuse me?" He goes, "With a set like that, I should start getting paid for this. When do I get paid?"
Oh my God.
And we're all looking at him like,
Yeah.
"Are you shitting me?"
Have about 10 more sets like that with none of your friends in the room, and then you might get paid.
Yeah. Come
25
Come back
bucks.
next week without your friends.
Exactly. I mean, and
That's
that's why
I don't like bringer shows. They give comics such a false sense of what comedy is, because a lot of bringer shows,
Yes.
they'll just get people who have never even done an open mic.
Yep.
They'll put out advertisements for, comedian wanted on like Craigslist or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And then some person who wants to try comedy will sign up and bring a bunch of people, and they think, "Oh, I'm great." Then they go do a show, an open mic without their friends, and then bomb.
Then reality hits. Yes, exactly. We've talked to many people where we're like, all right, how many shows before you ate it? And they're like, oh, like 3 shows in when all my friends didn't show up. And we're like, it's a learning experience for everyone, you know?
It is.
So many of them go, "My first time went great." Yeah, when was the first bomb? 3rd show, 4th show.
Yeah. I had quite a few friends that came to my first open mic.
Yep.
But again, like in that situation, it wasn't like they were the only ones there. Like there's a ton of people. There's probably 70 some people at this mic because it was a contest or whatever.
Right.
And I still have my set recorded. I watch it. I try to watch it every year on my anniversary.
Really?
Around my anniversary. Yeah, just because it's a great standard, because I can look back. It's a good way to look back, look at this video, and see how far I've advanced since then.
Yep.
Where it's like, oh, those jokes were trash. That type of comedy was trash.
Yep.
I was trash.
But
I'm getting better.
Or if there's still a joke that you do, but it's evolved, and you saw just the kernel of the joke was there, didn't go over well, but you knew that there was a premise, and now you look at it and you're like, wow, that one line just turned into a good 5-7 minute story.
Or when you're feeling too good about yourself, you watch that and go, "Wow, I really am shit." That's right. I am. That's right.
Yeah,
that's
right. Well, unfortunately, I can't go back and look at my old things because they don't make hand crank projectors.
Reel to reel.
No,
That's
I
right,
actually
Bessie.
do.
Let's go see that comedian at the 5 and Dime.
Here he goes.
Extra. Read all about
exactly.
There it is. Thank you, Dan. Perfect.
We've got.
That's right.
We've got.
I'll buy you a soda.
Let's go down to the pharmacy and get a soda jerk. Yeah.
I hear he's
root beer float. No,
he'll really yank your chain. This guy.
We've got a friend who's a local DJ, and him and his wife we've had on the podcast, and I was talking to her earlier today, and she says old-timey sayings and she doesn't realize it. And
That's amazing.
every time she does, she was on a local show. We have a local like Morning Joe show called The Road Show. And she goes, I can't believe it. I was on the road show last week, and I said I got all some people
Gussied
get gussied up. She goes, and all I could think was you and Scott in the background going, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
That's right, babe. You got some set of stems.
Yeah, poor Carla. No, I actually do have. I don't have when I first got on. But so I started in 89. I think in 91 or 91 was the Comedy Central taping. It was called the Comedy Channel at the time. But we did a taping at Periwinkle's, the club that I started at. And I do have that on video cassette. And I watch it.
I just want to make you feel real old for a second.
Yeah. What'd
in
your birthday?
1991, I was a freshman in high school.
Oh, that's not bad. Yeah, well, no, I started.
That could have been a lot worse.
No, it could have been worse. I thought you were going to say you were born. I thought he was going to say he was born in 91.
Yes, I thought so too.
No, I graduated high school in 86, so it wasn't I was only a couple of years out of high school when I started, but
yeah, that could have been.
But
a lot
it was.
worse.
But
I graduated college in 91, so not
I go
too bad.
back and I watch that though, and I'm like, wow. How did I get on that show? Because it was a contest. They did Comedy Central they'd go around to comedy clubs all around the country, say, hey, run a contest, pick your best 12 people. Everyone will get 6 minutes. We'll record it. It'll end up on short attention span theater or whatever.
12. What, did Periwinkle's only have 10? Is that how you made it on?
No, I beat out some people. I'm trying to think if Tom Cotter was even on that show. Maybe I beat Tom on. No, I think Tom was on it. I think Al Ducharme was on it.
Oh, yeah.
And but I watch it and I'm like, oh my God. And of course the cassette that I have, it wasn't, picking up my mic. It was only picking up the really loud, and of course it was in the middle of a mall, so the acoustics sucked, I don't even know if anyone was laughing. I couldn't even tell.
You hear the carousel in the middle of the mall.
Oh, yeah. No, well, it wasn't that kind of a mall.
The blenders at Friendly's making the milkshakes.
Yeah. No, the margaritas in the back of the club. But this isn't about me. Let's get back to Dan.
I'm having too much fun picking on you.
Oh, this is fun. Oh, yeah, it's kind of fucking gay. Anytime I want to throw Scott off, I do a Norm Macdonald impression and it just shuts him up. Hear that thing about that guy Scott? He's gay. That guy Scott there. No, so the first time was a bringer show. You got up.
You were hooked.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what we say all the time about comics. The people who are true comics, they're the people that, whether they did good their first time or shitty their first time,
That's it.
they want to get back up on stage. Because if you did good, you're like, oh my God, that's like a drug. I got to get another hit. And if you did shitty, you're like, I know I can do better than that. I am getting back up on that stage. I'm going to do better.
And I think about that. If it would have went worse than what it did, I don't know that.
Would you have
I don't know if I would have got
back
back on. It's hard to say. It's hard to because
hey, listen.
didn't.
But we all know,
fine.
but we all know comics that have done bad for years and years and still get up.
Oh yeah, well, and I might have been that comic. So. I'm not saying that's out of the realm of possibilities either.
No, but you got that real laugh that first time, and you love that, and then you just kind of chase that afterwards,
Right.
And there's got to be times now, and we talked about this with other comics, that one thing I hate now is those nights that you're telling material that works and you're not getting the laughs where you should or how you should, and it so throws your timing and everything off, and you're like, wow, that joke always does well and I got nothing. And then you get laughs on stuff that's like filler or throwaway, and you just everything is off, and you get done and you're just feeling like shit because that set didn't feel right, and people are leaving going, you were so funny, and you're like, did you watch the same show that I was on? Because you feel like what works,
right?
Because you've been doing your act long enough, and here comes the comedy gods saying, "Oh no, you don't.
We're gonna
Here you
knock
go.
it down a few notches."
We got to knock you off your pedestal a little bit. Just
Oh yeah,
to
that's
throw a
how
little wrinkle in
my
it.
weekend went. I
Really?
opened for Jackie Cation at the Snow Jam Comedy Festival this last weekend, and my set was atrocious. I
Really?
it was terrible. I was not a fan, but and it's not an excuse. It's just a factor because with comedy, if you don't keep getting up on stage and at least keeping things sharp, it's easy to lose that edge.
Right.
And
Oh,
I
yeah.
hadn't performed in a few weeks, and
that happens.
I hosted a show earlier in the day, and it's same. I didn't feel very good about my hosting set either. It was mediocre. And then I featured for that show for Jackie, and I don't know. I know one of the things that happened is that they shut the clock off, and I wasn't sure if I was being timed or who was timing me. And so I'm sure if I go back and watch the video, I can see the moment when I noticed the clock wasn't running. And then
And you're like, "Oh shit, have I gone over?
like, where am I at a time?"
Right.
And then I just got all in my head. And I'm sure, like I said, if I watch the video, I'm going to be able to see that
exactly when
moment
it happened.
when it happened. But then the great thing with comedy is that then the next day I had a show that I was headlining and just did fine. It was amazing. It was a fun show.
Yeah.
So
You never know what it's going to be like. And I think that's right. It's funny because we talked about it like during COVID. How bad was it shaking the rust off that first show you got back up on after 6, 8, however many weeks of a shutdown that you had to go through, and then people finally came out, but they were intense and they were spread out all over the place. There were like 2 people at each table, 17 feet apart, and you're sitting there and you're like, holy shit, like we did a show together. It was our first show back. It was up in New Hampshire, and I sat there, and I've been doing it 34 years. My closer I've been doing for at least 12. And I'm looking at Scott, and I look at him, and I go, "Oh, my God, what do I close on?" And he goes...
It took me a minute.
We're staring at each other for what seemed like 5 minutes. It was probably about 4 seconds. And he goes, "Family Guy." I go, "Oh, my God, yes." So I'm all set and ready to go. Now, the opener, Scott was featuring. The opener gets ready to wrap up. Scott's going up to the tent. And he turns around to me, he goes, "What do I open with?"
Because I'm too busy thinking about his act, I forgot what I was doing. So I got my own head, and I'm like, "Oh shit, what do I start with?"
That was the scariest time coming back from that. You know?
Because we were, that was like July.
Yeah, it was a July show, and we had been shut down since March.
Yeah.
My last show
So
was
it
March 7th.
4 months.
Yeah.
We hadn't done anything, and we hadn't really done any Zoom shows. Did you do any Zoom shows?
I did a few off and on. I even produced some of my own shows.
Did you?
I mean, it really depended on the platform, and
I
how
found
it
those
was operated.
I found those soul sucking.
Some of them, absolutely. Some were actually pretty fun if the person ran it right. You know,
Yeah.
and that
It depended.
It took a team. You had to have a team to run it right.
Yeah, and so there, we had a couple that went horrible, and then we had a couple that went good. I did one. Did you do Nikki Luparelli's?
No.
So this woman out of Worcester, Massachusetts, was doing it was a drunken comedy show basically before the pandemic happened, and it was actually a fun show. In order to get on the show, or in order to get beyond the show, you had to provide yourself with a designated driver, so no one was driving, because then you drank before you got up on the show, and in order to get up on stage, as she introduced you, you went up on stage and blew into a breathalyzer, and she had to make sure that you were at a 0.08 or a 0.1 blood alcohol level in order to perform. And it was so much fun. And I had done it twice before the pandemic. And then she asked me if we wanted to do one, but on Zoom. And she said, "We're not going to do our material, though. We're going to play games. We're just going to play drinking games." And we did it. And I have no idea if the audience enjoyed it, but we had a blast. We didn't give a shit, But then we both did the Boston Comedy
Festival.
It was the one year that the Boston Comedy Festival did it online through Zoom. But
That
again,
was good. That
because
was well
that
done.
was a very well-established 20-something year comedy festival. They had an audience. So there were, there were I did the semifinals. I think there were 80 people in the room. You did one of the semifinals.
I did the qualifying rounds
Yep.
before your semifinals, and we had 60-something people watching.
Yeah.
We had 7 people competing, so it was, we had good audiences.
Right.
And they gave them a nice list of rules to follow, how to watch the show, so you had an actual audience watching a comedy show.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it worked really well. Like you said, it was a team of people.
Yep.
That
Yep,
was
got it
running the
right.
show.
Yep, and run it right.
Yeah,
They
so
did
they
it
set it
right.
up right. The other 2 that I did were just, oh man, it was not run right. You're sitting there and you're trying to do your jokes and you hear a toilet flushing in the background.
Did you say
Cat
someone
meowing,
yelled out, "Get me a
dog
beer"?
barking.
you hear a toilet flush, then you hear someone go, "Bob, while you're up, grab me a beer." No, a beer. You're like, put Tommy back to bed. Put him back. I don't know why he's. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing?
Yeah, right.
I should be playing like World of Warcraft or something
Instead
right
of
now.
doing this,
Instead
yeah.
of doing
Had,
this shit.
I did one of my recordings last night for my podcast with a guest
Yep.
comic. Emily Page is her name, and she started comedy during the pandemic. So she actually
really?
started with Zoom comedy, which I thought was an interesting aspect because there are quite a few people who did.
Yeah.
Started comedy on Zoom. So we had an interesting conversation because I was curious how that transition went from not knowing what it was like to do live comedy, going from Zoom comedy to live comedy.
Right.
Thinking that's normal.
Right.
And then doing
Yeah.
this.
And what did
Yeah.
she say? What was the transition like?
She said, for the most part, I mean, it was fine. And she said after doing live comedy, she could see why nobody would want to do Zoom comedy.
Well, because now you get
It's a different energy.
Yeah.
you get that live energy from a big group of people instead of a bunch of faces on a computer screen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's
One thing
crazy.
she did mention too, though, with that is that it helped make a lot of connections. And it
Oh,
did.
yeah, I'm
it was a
sure.
good way. It was a good way to network with people and other comics all over the world, really.
All over the world, yeah. We did a couple of Zoom shows with some guys out of New Jersey that did one. It was like a world record, and then we did a fundraiser for Bob Nelson.
Yes.
And those were fun because
were.
we just kind of told a lot of like stories and stuff like that. We didn't really. I think there were a couple of times where they were like, "All right, we've told a bunch of stories. Why don't we all go around the screen and do like 2 minutes of our act?" And that was fun. But there wasn't any pressure on that either.
No, that was a different setup as well. So, Dan, because I eventually want to talk about the podcast a little bit, but I also want to know about you as a comedian.
Comic.
I mean, since 2010 till now, I mean, what were some of the wow moments you've had? And when we say wow moments, like major comedians or big names or heroes you've got to work with, or some cool places you've got to perform at, or things like that you've done.
Oh, I think for me, one of the coolest things, because I also got into producing early on, and I've, had some great opportunities to produce festivals and produce comedy shows. And one of the biggest moments, I think, for me as a comedian and producer is I got to produce a show for Dana Carvey in San Diego,
get out.
along with my
That is
co-producer,
cool.
Brandon Young. Yeah. And I got to do 5 minutes in front of the MC, and so technically I got to open the show but I just, but I also produced the show, and we did 2 sold out shows. It was amazing.
Wow.
And I got to hang out with him and for a little bit. And he is one of the nicest people I've ever met, and a lot of times in comedy, it's, so different. I have a similar story to that about, hanging out with Gallagher for a day, but it's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
I've heard a lot of stories about him.
I mean,
well,
the day that I hung out with him, he was, fine. It was just mentally exhausting because I ended up spending a whole day with this person.
Yeah.
And he almost ruined comedy for me.
Really?
And that was like the all moment, because we were between media, and he wanted to go get breakfast. So we were sitting at this diner in San Diego, and we're waiting for breakfast to come. We're just chit chatting a little bit. He asked me about my comedy, what I talk about, and I tell him, basically say I talk, a little bit of self-deprecating humor. I talk about myself, family experiences, things like that, stuff like that. And he's like, oh man, nobody, the audiences don't care about that. They just care about, sex and farts and dicks. And he basically told me to be a hack. And that,
Really?
and it just killed my soul, because I was like, this is a man that's got 20 Showtime specials.
Right.
Like, been doing comedy 30 plus years. And you could tell that he was bitter, obviously.
He
but it
got
was just
very
like,
bitter.
this is the insight you have for a young new comic, is just be hacky.
Right.
So pretty soul crushing.
That must have been crazy. Yeah, it's funny because I was a huge, growing up, I was a huge fan of every one of those Showtime specials, and I never got, when people started calling them hacky and shit like that, I never understood it, because I'm like, yeah, but you're only looking at the sledge-o-matic. You're only looking at the stupid last 5 minutes of every show, which was a gimmick that got him famous. But if you listen to his other material, his actual commentary, social commentary, his actual jokes were smart jokes. He was not a hacky comic.
Oh, absolutely.
He got painted into a corner as a hack
Never
because
was a
of the
fan.
sledge-o-matic.
Never was a fan.
Really? But if you listen to his actual comedy,
No, even with
It's
his regular
funny.
comedy, I just never.
well, you're from Connecticut. You don't know what
Well,
the
I
fuck
think
you're
part
talking
of
about.
the
fuck
issue, though, too, even with his regular comedy, the older he got, the more
The more,
George
political-
Carlin, yes.
but he leaned in the wrong directions, I feel like.
yeah,
He wasn't down the middle.
right,
No,
right.
No, he got angrier as he got older.
Absolutely.
and
Because even when we had the show for him that he produced, he didn't do the sledge-o-matic. We didn't pay
Oh, no?
for that. We just
Right.
had straight stand-up. That's all
Yeah.
we were doing.
And how did he do?
He did fine.
Yeah.
He got good laughs and good, the audiences that came enjoyed what he was doing.
What he was doing, and it wasn't like
But-
they were yelling sledge-o-matic at the end or
okay,
any.
let me play
like that.
devil's advocate. Are people laughing because they already know who he is and he has kind of a built-in fame, so they laugh because they already know who he is? Or are they laughing because it truly is funny?
Oh, it's hard to say. I mean, I think that's with any, you guys were talking about my podcast before you introduced me, the art of bombing, and even celebrity comedians bomb and all that. But I think a theory that I have is the longer you do comedy and the more you build a fan base, even when you quote unquote bomb, you're not really bombing because you're so famous that the people that are there to see you are your fans.
They're your
And
fans,
they're just
right?
there
Right.
Yeah.
to be there. So it's you might not have done well as a comedian and got the laughs where you thought you wanted, but that audience who is your audience
Right.
enjoys what you're doing, and they just want to hear you talk.
It's not like us going into a VFW hall or an Elks Lodge and no one knows who the frig we are.
Yep.
We have to win them over and make them
But
fans.
if if you watch Comedian, that's what Jerry Seinfeld did. They made the argument opposite to what you just said. I think it was Colin Quinn that said in that, he goes, you could be the most famous person in the world. You could be Jack Nicholson, walk up there, and they give you about 2 minutes, and then after that, if you're not being funny, they're like, all right, Jack, get the hell out of here. It's time for somebody else.
But Jack Nicholson hasn't built a reputation of being funny.
Well, no, he
You
was
know
just
what I
using.
mean?
He goes because
Yeah.
they're talking about even Seinfeld. Yeah, they're going to give you a couple minutes up front because they know who you are.
Right.
But you still have to be funny on the
No, you still have
tail
to be
end of
funny.
that.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, that's true to a point, but when I'm not talking about, just like people who know. There's a difference of an audience knowing who a comic is because
And
they're
being
household name,
fans
and being
of that.
Fans of
Yeah.
okay,
I'm talking when you
okay,
get to a
fair
certain
enough.
Yeah.
level, you have fans.
Right.
It's just like a good example of that are YouTube, and now it would be the equivalent would be TikTok stars.
Right.
Right.
Blow up, get hundreds and millions of followers, and then now they can go sell at a comedy club.
Right.
They're not
Oh.
funny. They're
We've
not
talked
doing
about
comedy.
that.
They're
Right.
trying, but the audience that goes doesn't care.
because
They're
they're
just there to see
fans.
this person because they're fans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and the reason I bring that up is because, and we've told some stories about Rob Schneider.
He seems to come up a lot this year.
Yes. Not a great reputation, but he's coming to Boston and at the Wilbur Theater, and there was an ad for his tickets all over Facebook recently because of him coming to the Wilbur Theater, and there's a ton of comments under the post for his tickets, and people are going, he's not funny on stage.
Yeah, he's an
terrible.
asshole.
Saw him open up for Sandler. He was terrible. He's fine when it comes to his movies and when he was on Saturday Night Live, but he can't be the copy guy for 40 minutes on stage.
Right.
Who would go see him? Are people buying his tickets by accident? Some guy posted.
That's awesome.
Oh, I was reading this
That's
stuff
like
because
the best burn.
I died laughing. I started reading them just for the burns.
Yeah,
because
that's awesome.
People were so
amazing.
funny. Now they're not even seeing him yet, and they're already complaining about him. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
But I think
you know,
that so goes to do with what kind of person you are. And
Right,
he's
exactly.
Publicly showing that he, and
He's an asshole.
to the right audience, because it's all political to
Right.
certain political affiliations. They're he's leaning into that. But to a lot of people, he's coming off as an asshole.
Right.
And I think that goes on the stage. People are
Right.
judging based on what kind of person
Wow.
you are.
Yeah.
They're
We-
not.
when we did an episode a couple weeks ago, we had people that have worked with him, and we have friends that personally have worked with him, and everybody,
Everyone says he's a dick.
what a dick
Yeah.
he is to work
No one
with.
has said, "Oh, he's misunderstood."
No, every single. It's the same theme from everybody that he is a dick to work with.
Right.
So,
Yeah, one guy opened for him for a year.
yeah. Yeah.
Dan.
Yeah.
Different Dan, but yeah.
Yeah. I'd know if I opened for him.
Yeah, you might have picked that up.
Yeah.
You just said,
I wouldn't have been able to confirm or deny what you're talking about.
And it's a shame that some people become that person, and because, he's done a few movies and stuff like that because he knows the right people.
Right, exactly. And don't get me wrong, he was funny in some movies and stuff like that. He wasn't like a star on Saturday Night Live. I think he became a bigger star in the movies, but it was all Adam Sandler movies.
Right.
And he did great. I love some of his roles,
But he wasn't the star carrying the movie.
well, Deuce Bigelow he
Absolutely
was.
not.
Nah,
Deuce Bigelow. I like Deuce Bigelow.
you would.
I know.
You would.
Come on.
I'm coming up on your podcast and just gonna end up splitting the team.
Holy shit.
Come on.
So
And he came up with the catchphrase.
Feuding.
You can do it.
okay, and moving on.
That's it. That's all I got. That's all I got. Listen, that's the only.
I am not having this.
That's the only nice thing I could say about him. Believe me.
He's got some good. He did some fun things in some movies. That's about it.
That's about it. That's about it. Yeah. All right. Listen, I'm not saying I'm a fan. I can't fucking stand him for every other reason. Because but when we get off air, we'll tell you a little bit about my day job and why I can't stand him. But that'll we don't want to bore the audience.
But
with
anyway,
that.
the art of bombing.
Yes, let's talk
That's right.
about it.
How
do
did
it.
you come up with the idea for this podcast?
So I bombed really bad at a corporate gig. That was part of it. I mean, that's what kind of led to it.
The infamous corporate Ace has told the story several times about his bomb at a corporate gig.
Yeah.
Those are some of the worst ones to do. So,
They absolutely can be.
do you mind telling us your bomb at the corporate gig?
Yeah, I mean, so I got booked to be the entertainment at the EMS what was it? The state conference, which is it was
Yep.
emergency
medical
services.
services. Yeah.
You're
Yep,
talking to two
emergency medical
former
service.
EMTs, or
Okay,
one
good.
former, one
You know
former.
the lingo.
Oh, yeah.
For those that don't, it's basically EMTs, firefighters, paramedics, and stuff. And so it's a state conference that they do where they get together and they do a bunch of training. So they have like training sessions. They have exercises that they do. All speakers come in, all the stuff.
And your set brought him into asystole.
Yeah, so part of
like that.
Nicely
You like that?
done.
Flatline, baby.
and he was shockingly funny.
Oh, hey.
I tell you. All right,
that
good night,
wasn't.
people. Don't forget to tip the wait staff.
Oh, that was V-Tacky.
Oh, two
sorry.
for one.
Sorry. No,
just going
just-
for it. I love it.
yeah. No, go
That
ahead.
would have, man. You probably would have literally
I
killed
probably,
it.
I probably would have killed. Yeah, right.
Should have had Ace rate you some jokes.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
Man,
folks.
Where
that
were
last.
you 6 years ago? Damn. Although
I'm sorry,
if
folks,
you would
that
have been
joke was
around 6 years
V-Tacky.
ago and helping me write some jokes, I might not have come up with the art of bombing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no. Yeah, out of that shitty gig came a great podcast. So go ahead.
Exactly.
So what happened?
Yeah, so I was supposed to perform during their dinner earlier in the night. So here's the
always
thing.
great.
So they were going to do it
While they're eating,
Well-
you're talking about?
Yes, and I preferred this because this is the reason. So they were going to do their dinner, which was like a buffet style dinner. Then they had awards that they were doing, and then they had they were going to have like a DJ or something and do
Dancing,
some like a
yeah.
dance and stuff afterwards. And I was part of the entertainment. I wanted to go, even though performing while people are eating isn't ideal for a scenario like that. I wanted to go early. Because
Before the awards.
Before the
Yeah.
awards. I wanted to go before the awards. Well, they asked me when I got there if they could they needed to change it up and they wanted me to go after the awards. And I was like, already there, and I'm not gonna fight it. And part of it was my aunt and uncle were on the planning committee, so they're part of the reason I got booked. So I'm just like, all right.
Yeah, you didn't want to make
yeah.
them look bad, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be, flexible and work with them. So I go ahead and say, yeah, I'll wait till after the awards. Well, I didn't realize that the dinner and the awards was like a 3-hour situation, right? So they have a dinner.
Was
they
there
have the
cocktail
awards.
hour before the dinner?
Probably. I wasn't there for that, but I'm sure there probably was.
So they were pre-gaming for an hour
yeah.
and then 3 hours.
Eating, and then and drinking during the ceremony. But one of the two things that are pretty funny about this, one is there's the two people that are emceeing the awards ceremony are two EMTs. They're part of the community or whatever, but they've been hosting this together for like 16 years.
Yep.
The one is a little bit older than the other. He's an older guy, and throughout the whole night he's doing Lena and Oli jokes, which are, if you're not familiar, they're Scandinavian humor jokes. It's very popular in the upper Midwest, South Dakota, Minnesota, North Dakota.
Okay.
These are they're street jokes, but they're very popular out here.
Okay.
And so throughout the night, he's doing these Lena and Oli jokes, and he's crushing all night long, just crushing with these internet jokes, these street jokes that he's got in his back pocket. So what happens is before I'm going up, they're finally doing the last award. The last award is the EMT of the Year award. That seems like a great award to give out. This particular year, the recipient is EMT who passed away 3 weeks prior after a long battle of cancer.
So it's not an award; it's more of a memorial.
Yep.
And we've talked about this.
Yeah, pretty much. And so they show they show a video of the people who nominated him reading him the nomination letter with him and his family. And this guy is
From
like
his
the saint.
deathbed.
He's from a smaller town. He's a teacher. He's like the Boy Scout leader. He's a deacon in the church. He's, anything you can think of for a person to just be the absolute best person.
Yeah.
It's this guy. He's the coach. He's the everything in the small
Worse
town.
by the
He's
second.
probably he owns all the keys to whatever town he lived in.
Right.
situation.
Yeah. They're literally anointing him a saint.
Pretty much. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So they show this video, and then that gets a standing ovation.
Of course.
Waterworks going everywhere. The whole 9 yards. It's
Yep.
beautiful. Then his widow is there to accept the award. So they present her with the award, the EMT of the Year award. She says a few words, more tears, another standing ovation. They wrap that up. Well, you guys are familiar with this, you're probably, if you've been to any kind of ceremony when it comes to EMTs, paramedics, police, fire rescue, any of that stuff, whenever they do a ceremony, they have a place setting called the last rites place setting. The
Yep.
beginning of
Yeah.
the ceremony, they set a table for the fallen, and then at the end of the ceremony, they retrieve the items, and that's how you end it. So it's a place setting for the fallen.
The fallen.
Which just adds to this already. There's already set. So
Right.
we got the award for this saint that just lost his battle of cancer, and now we're doing the last rites ceremony.
Yep.
So they get all that done. Then one of the guys comes up to me and says, you can go up whenever you're ready. And I'm like, aren't you going to introduce me? He's like, I guess I can. And he goes back up and he's like, all right, it's time for comedy. Welcome, Dan. So that's pretty much my intro. So I have to follow a memorial with 2 standing ovations and lots of tears. And by the time I get up, like I said, it's like 9 o'clock at night.
It's already
This thing-
over.
Yeah.
It's already over.
People are getting up. Some are leaving because they're tired. Totally understand that.
Yeah.
They're tired.
They've been there 4 hours.
just
Nobody
at this
wants to laugh.
Just at this event, that they were there all day doing stuff. This is
Right.
just
Oh, yeah,
one-
that's right. They were
So,
in classes
I mean,
all day. Right.
classes all day. Then this, they're spent. I get it. So you got people leaving that because they're just tired. Then you have people getting up and coming to give their condolences
To the widow.
who
Yep.
is sitting in the front, the table in the front, and in a comedy like at a comedy club, if this was really happening, something like that, if people were getting up and talking to somebody, you could say something about it. Like you could address it and
Yeah.
do the thing.
Nope.
But I knew in that moment that I can't do anything. I can't,
Nope.
I'm not going to say anything because if I do, I'm going to look like a complete asshole and they're going to run me out of here. That's what's going
Right.
to happen. So I knew I couldn't say anything to that. So I had to let that happen. So there's people talking, doing their thing, and then I'm trying to do jokes. And I addressed it right away. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to follow 2 standing ovations, but I'm going to give it a shot. And I was supposed to do an hour. I think I did like 55 minutes. A couple times. I think my biggest laughs throughout the night, I said something about I kind of slipped over some words and I was like, oh man, maybe I'm having a stroke. And then I said, but if I have a stroke and fall over, I guess this would be the safest place to do it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, maybe you guys would just let me die. And that got like the biggest laugh. So
Oh my God.
I get through the set and then I'm sitting there. Now I have to go collect the check. I'm sitting there waiting for the lady to go get my check. And the older guy who's crushing all night with the Lena and Only jokes comes up to me and he says, keep at it, kid. You'll get there.
Oh,
he says-
my
Come
He's
on,
like,
rubbing
keep at
salt in the wound.
Keep at it. You'll get there, kid. I think that's something to that effect is what he said to me. And I was just like, really? Did you just say that? Like, you've been doing internet show. Like, all
Yeah,
the
you told
material I
fucking
did,
street jokes before the memorial service, you asshole.
I told original material
Wow.
all after. And that was like a situation where I was ready to quit comedy. Like,
Yeah.
I had it on my way home. I had like an hour drive and I was ready to quit. I had a friend, my friend Nathan Holtz. I called him. He had to talk me off the ledge. He's like,
Yep.
just let it go. Just let it go for now. wake up tomorrow. You're going to feel different about it. You're going to,
You're gonna realize
You're like,
you were.
no, I'm not.
No, but you're gonna realize you were put in a bad situation.
Yeah.
No one would have been able to come out of that situation.
Yeah, I was just
And
going to
that's
say
what-
that when you talk about the art of bombing, there's different types of bombing. There's bombing when you're put in situations that are impossible, and then there's bombing when you put yourself into a situation. But with the material you decide to do.
Right.
You go into the crowd and try to
Do some crowd
engage
work,
somebody
yeah.
in a way that maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You put yourself in a situation that you can't get yourself out of. So there's two different ways to kind of put yourself in a bomb.
Oh, absolutely.
That was a situation that I don't care how seasoned you are, how good you are not getting yourself out of that situation.
No, I do think had I had more experience, I could have made it better. I don't know that it would have been. Would have been a bomb.
I was going to say
Listen.
you wouldn't have totally salvaged that no matter what.
No.
Like you said, maybe a couple more moments of laughs or levity, but that's a horrible situation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and the funny thing is, when I finally did listen back to the audio, it wasn't as bad as I thought. I mean, it was still bad, but it wasn't as bad as I thought.
Yeah,
because you're comparing it to a headlining gig at a club.
Yeah.
Or at a restaurant, or at a VFW hall where people are there to see comedy. When you have comedy as part of a larger event where there's other things going on, like an award ceremony, like a DJ, like other things, it's very, very difficult. And especially when they want you up for an hour.
Yeah.
That's a big chunk. When comedy is not the main event, it shouldn't be an hour. They should have had you go up for 20 minutes. That's it,
And had I been more seasoned, I would have known
You
that,
would have
and
told
I would
them.
have quoted
Right.
that too.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. That's part of the having,
Right.
the
Yeah.
right
Now-
tools and the
Right.
experience.
Now you'd pull them aside and say, listen, in my experience, if you're asking me to do comedy as part of this night where you're going to have a dinner and awards and a DJ, you don't need any more than 20 to 30 minutes of comedy. I'm telling
And I
you
will
right
tell
now in my
people that.
experience. Right.
Yep.
But we did in season 2. So we always end. This is why we wanted to have you on too, because you do a whole podcast about what we do at the end of every one of our episodes. We always ask the guest about a funny bad gig story, because as horrible as that is, and we don't know you, this is our first time meeting you. But if we knew you and were friends with you, we'd be laughing our asses off right now as
absolutely.
you're telling that story, because we love.
I'm still laughing.
Yeah, as comics,
Good.
right?
Exactly.
But because as
It's funny
comics,
now.
right? As comics, we love to hear our friends go through shit and pain. So we did a show. We did a panel show back in season 2 where we had 4 or 5 of us, and we tried to come up with a list of 10 things where, as a comic, if you walk into any one of these situations, it's going to be a bad gig. And we couldn't even narrow it down to 10. We narrowed it down to 12. And since that episode, we've probably added 3 more.
Right.
But
And
a memorial service was on that fucking list. We're like, and we've got one of the guys that was on the panel had put us in that situation. And I'm like, John, we love you, but his wife had cystic fibrosis and needed a lung transplant, double lung transplant.
Both of them, yeah.
And they had a big fundraiser for her. And he asked me, were you on?
I wasn't on that show.
He asked me, he goes, Ace, could you be on this show? I want to do a show. I want to raise some money, to help defray medical costs. I'm like, yeah, John, of course. But what happened was John had like 5 or 6 comics, which is small for a John Parada show because usually he's got 12 or 15. But he had 5 or 6 comics go up. But he wasn't running the whole event. He was just in charge of getting the comics. Well, they had a dinner. They had a DJ. They had all of her friends from work. Now, first of all, she's there, literally on death's door. She was a month away from getting her lung transplant. They didn't even know if she was going to make it to get the transplant. She was gaunt. She was skinny. She was wasting away. She was tiny. She was sick. She was on oxygen. Bad enough we're doing a comedy show in front of her and all of her friends. But then the friends get up and say, hey, before you guys do the comedy, we'd like to say a couple of words.
Oh, no.
Out comes the projector and the slideshow.
Oh, yeah.
With like, fucking Barbara Streisand singing Memories with all of these pictures of her when she was healthy. And then, everyone's there. Everyone's in fucking tears, including all the comics. And then they were like, okay, it's time to go up. We've got... Terry's husband got a bunch of his comedy friends here, and they're going to make us laugh. And they introduce us. It was fucking horrible. But that's why we brought it up on that show, because that's one of the worst.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
now if someone is, now that you're experienced in it, if someone ever says, hey, we want to do a little presentation about, something, before you go on, now you're like, no, you know what? In my experience,
Yep.
you never want to have... no comic can bring up an audience that has been just brought into a memorial service.
Well, just share your pain, Dan, and I've told this story before too. I got asked to do it. It was a memorial service for a firefighter that died in a fire.
Yeah.
And they bring his family up just before the comedy show. His wife, his 3 kids, all 6 years and under. The 6-year-old son is holding his father's fire helmet, and they talk about their father, and and he's a hero, and he's this, and everybody is crying their eyes out, and they literally are carrying the mother off the stage because she's falling apart, bringing her to her seat and everything. And the guy that's running the show goes, and now we're going to have a little levity. I'm like, levity?
Yeah.
Why would you even use that fucking word at this point? Levity. And the guy that was going on first, I was the feature act that night. The guy that was going on first, he's like, I can't go up there. I go, dude, you can have my money and do my spot too at this point. I'm not going up there after that shit. If you're not going up there. I mean, it was just like, what are you people thinking at this point? And we've had multiple stories. Ray Harrington had a great story of a memorial. We had one other person, Jimmy Dunn, told a story where he told them, keep the money. You know, I don't even want the money.
I don't even want the money.
Keep the money.
But I was broke.
Yeah. Hey, money's money, man. It's a job. And actually, you actually earn that money more so because of that situation.
Yeah.
No, but there's so many scenarios they put us in. Now, on your podcast, have you had any bombing stories that were just so crazy that you weren't expecting, them? Because, I mean, obviously, as comedians, we a lot of situations don't surprise us. But have you had any that just totally surprised you?
Yeah, I had one, and I know the episode because it's like kind of a highlighted episode. It was episode 50, I think, with Andrew Deans. He was a comic friend of mine in San Diego, and he was on the podcast, and he told a story about a show that him and some friends put together. They worked together, and they booked a show at 4th and B, which was this huge music venue downtown San Diego, down in the gas lamp, and it seats like 1,000 people, and they were able to sell it out because there's like a bunch of them, and they did everything they needed to do to sell this place out. And he was going up right before the last comic, and he walked almost the entire audience. So he walked almost 1,000 people.
Oh my God! What did he say?
Yeah, I don't remember the specifics from when he told me the story, but he said nothing was working, and he was getting like heckled by the audience. And then they started leaving, and then it just snowballed from there. And then of course he felt so bad because there was still
someone had to follow him.
Someone had to follow him. Yeah. And by the time that person went up, there was only a handful of people left in this venue that holds like 1,000 people.
Shit. Oh my God.
That's pretty good to walk that many people. That's
That's got to be a record.
Yeah, that's some talent right there.
I want his contact info. We got to get him on.
Yeah.
Tell that funny bad gig story.
That's
Holy
a
shit.
man. That's a classic right there.
That's probably been one of my favorite stories from the podcast.
Oh my
Wow.
God, I can't wait to get caught up on your podcast.
Yeah.
Man, that's because our favorite stories, like Ace said, is the funny bad gig story, which is basically that. It's the bombing stories.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And stuff. And then every year we do an episode at the end of the year, the best of the funny bad gig stories, where we go through and take our favorites throughout the year. And man, it never ceases to amaze us. Not only how funny they are, but every year we have new ones. It's situations that we wouldn't picture or haven't heard of before, or how many different ones that come up every single year, and it's so fun. And I'm so glad to have discovered yours, and
Yeah.
someone that has dedicated a podcast to this.
To the bad gigs.
Because it is an interesting side of comedy,
It is.
because people don't understand that, it's not just one moment of a show,
Right.
It's something that, we have to deal with.
Oh, absolutely. And, going back to, talking about what started, got me to start the podcast, so it was that bombing situation was part of it. The other part of it is I wanted to learn more about bombing. So I started looking, and there weren't any podcasts out there that talked about bombing.
Yeah.
Like there would be, obviously you would have, a podcast where they might have a story or something. But
Right.
it wasn't
Right.
anything dedicated just to bombing.
Right.
It wasn't like the sole, premise of a podcast.
Right.
And I wanted to talk to other comics about it because I wanted to see. I was looking to see if I was the only one, really. I was like, man, I
Right.
bombed so
Yeah, 'cause
bad.
you
Am I the
feel-
only person?
Yeah.
Do I just suck at comedy? And then I started this podcast, on this quest, and found out that everybody bombs, and it's part
Absolutely.
of what we do.
Oh
And
my God.
Well,
you can learn so much from from the bad shows. You learn more from bombing than you do from having.
oh, absolutely. There's no growth. There's no growth in the good times of anything. It's there's growth in failure.
I know, and people could say what they want about him, but Louis C.K. said at one time, he goes, I've never learned anything from a good show. Mm-hmm. He goes, I get done with a good set, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, I killed, that's fine. He goes, I've always learned after doing a bad set or bombing or a bad show.
because you can't stop thinking about it.
Right.
Because
You get off stage
Listen.
and you're like, what the fuck?
You have to learn how to make it better.
I told you I was on episode 4 of this podcast as a guest. I had listened to 3 other episodes, so I knew that Scott asked this at the end of the show. Give me a funny bad gig story. Give me a bombing story. I came in, I'm like, I got 3. Is that
Yes.
good? Can I talk about them? I got 3.
Oh, I
you
know.
know? And
You know,
I probably have 4
I could
more.
tell you guys another funny one of time that I
Please.
Go ahead.
Please.
it's another. It's very similar to. It was kind of a corporate. It was a fundraiser. It was a benefit for somebody with cancer, and it was like they were having a silent auction. They were having a buffet. There was like pool. There's like all kinds of different things going on. It was like in this hotel, and a friend, recommended me to them or whatever, and I took the gig. Very little money. But I wasn't doing a ton of time either.
Yeah.
And because it was, kind of I don't know if they were friends with him or what, but I cut a deal. It was, cancer and stuff.
Right.
But we're in this hotel, essentially ballroom, and they have the buffet set up around me. And then they have where I'm performing is literally on a dance floor, surrounded by everything, essentially. Like
So you're in the
buffet's
round.
behind me, the silent auctions around the other side, the tables to where I'm at are like 100, I don't know, 50 feet or something. There's a huge space between me and the tables where people are sitting. originally they had the PA was just set up on one side, but it was facing me. I had to ask them to turn it
to the audience.
Turn it to the audience and try to like spread it out.
Right.
I was like, that's not going to work. So they had to like try to get the PA situated.
Right.
And it wasn't, this was a big room. So it was like it wasn't a great PA or whatever. But then I go up and I start, trying to do some comedy or whatever. And I don't remember what jokes I had, but I literally at one point, there were kids running around me.
Yep.
While I'm performing. They're literally running circles around me.
That's on the list.
Kids at a show made the list.
I made I tried to make a joke about, oh, look, my orbit brought them in, like,
yeah.
That doesn't even get a laugh. And I'm just like, ooh, this is not going to go well. People are getting up and going into line to get food. So there's people getting food at the buffet.
Mm-hmm.
There's some bar behind me. People are getting drinks. There's people playing pool.
Right.
I didn't stop the pool. Everything is just happening, and I'm just kind of there.
You're in the middle of a circus. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yep. Yeah, we had a buddy of ours on the podcast where he did some sort of show, and it was at like a brewery where they thought it would be a good idea. And he goes, in the middle of my set, there's literally a cornhole tournament going on in front of me. Like they just started playing
where the stage and the people watching the show are.
Yeah,
they set up a
cornhole thing. Yeah.
That just reminded me of another.
Of course it does.
Isn't it funny how all of a sudden pain you trigger these fucking latent memories that you tried to suppress? Yeah. Go ahead.
A friend of mine asked me to do some comedy at a suicide prevention fundraiser thing, and one of the things they were doing was a cornhole tournament.
Yeah.
But the stage, they had us like up on a balcony at this venue.
Yep.
And everybody was like outside, but they were like 50 yards away. Like,
of course.
I was like up there trying to yell jokes at them.
It is crazy.
Comedy is the only art form, if you will, that people think you can plug and play anywhere.
And put it anywhere, right.
It just fits anywhere. And we don't need a lot to put on a show, but what we need is so essential to a good comedy show. And people don't understand that. And that's why after 21 years of doing this, I'm very specific when people say, hey, we want you to put on a comedy show. Okay, this is what I need. Very specifically, this is what I need.
Yep.
When I send them a contract, I list it all, and I'm very specific.
And if you don't have it, I will provide it for a fee. You know,
this is what I need, and this is how I want it set up, and because I want to deliver the best show I can for you. And trust me, if we do all these things, we're going to have a great show. If you don't, I'm not going to be held responsible for how the show's going to be. Don't blame me when this is a train wreck, because I'm telling you, this is what you need to do.
And you tell people, you're like, look, I'm not trying to be a diva. No. I am telling you that based on my experience in all of these years, here is what makes a good comedy show. Comedy is not an acoustic guitar as background music. Comedy, you have to be engaged, because if you don't hear the setup, you don't get the punchline. If you only hear the setup and then don't hear the punchline, now you don't think the comic's funny. You have to be fully engaged with comedy. It's just the way it is. It's not... Yeah. Trying to sound like a diva, but listen, I could play guitar in the background and sing Eagles songs, and people are going to turn around every once in a while when I'm done and clap, and they enjoyed it. Music can be in the background, comedy can't.
Nope, absolutely not.
That's crazy. Holy shit!
Oh my God, you make me want to turn down every corporate gig I ever get.
I know.
Because we've all had a few of those. But that depends. Sometimes you get that check and you go, well, maybe I could do one more.
Yeah,
exactly.
Man,
well, it's funny because most of my stories are about corporate gigs, and I'm trying to do more corporate comedy. Trying to focus. So maybe
I'm going to crack that nut someday.
We've had a couple of friends.
listen.
We've had a couple friend of ours go, you know what? I got to get off cruise ships. I'm tired of cruise ships. They're killing me. And then
Next thing you know, they're posting on Carnival celebration.
I got two of them that recently are posted. I'm on a cruise to Antarctica. I'm
Yeah.
on a cruise to here.
Exactly.
Because hey, they pay the bills. They pay well.
And and I was going to say it before. When I say that everyone bombs, we've talked about the Bill Burr story in Philly, and that's
In
a
Philly.
perfect example.
Classic.
Bill Burr, biggest fucking comic in probably him and Sebastian Maniscalco are probably the two biggest comics right now.
Yeah.
And Bill had that gig in Philly where they were booing him, and he's like, yeah, fuck you. I got 50 minutes, and I'm not getting off stage, so I'm going to just keep doing my stuff. And you know what? He didn't do great. They hated him. So he just pissed them off more by talking about the Patriots, which was awesome. But
he shit all over everything that was Philadelphia.
Everything Philadelphia, exactly. It was great, but it goes to show that every one of us goes through it. And I've told this on the podcast before. So I work for a medical company during the day, and years ago, my company, I don't know what made them think of doing this, but they hired Greg Giraldo to come in. And in between scientific sessions talking about the medicines and stuff like that, they figured, we'll have this guy come on for 10 minutes in between each session just to make people laugh and stuff like that. Well, Greg Giraldo, he wasn't going to tame his act. Even though it was corporate, I mean, he didn't swear. He didn't do anything dirty. But at one point, he made some jokes. One of them was something about, wow, they give you guys company cars, even the Asians? And and you could see everyone looking around. Of course, the Asian people in the company are laughing their asses off more than anyone, but everyone's asshole is puckered, And then the nail in the coffin was, he gets up and the two senior vice presidents for East and West Coast get up and they introduce him, and they were both portly people. And he gets up, his first line is, wow, evidently there's a weight requirement to be a vice president at this company. And I'm fucking dying laughing inside because I know how funny that joke is. No one else is laughing. I go up to him at lunch because, that was right before lunch. I go up to him at lunch and I introduce myself. I say, hey, man, I know I've never worked with you, but I'm a comic from up at the Boston area. And, I said, man, you did awesome. I said, but I'm going to tell you right now, you're never getting invited back to this company, right? He goes, yeah, I got that sense. I go, as long as you got the check, brother, that's all that matters. Get the check and run. I said, you said what every person in this fucking division was thinking. Everyone has thought the same thing about those two fat asses.
That is hilarious.
And no, he wasn't hired again. I think they went with Brian Regan the next time.
Yeah.
Definitely a safer bet.
Safer bet. Yeah. Rudy Tooty shooting, point and shooting.
Him or Bob Nelson.
Bob Nelson. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, play it safe after that. Oh, Dan, thank you so much for coming on tonight, man. It was awesome having you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And if you ever need guests that are professional bombers on your podcast,
I'm always looking.
We have two guys right here that know more than a thing or two about bombing. Yeah. We've told.
Like I said, I came on with 3 of them just for him.
Oh man, we've told some good bombing stories. So, but yeah, no, seriously, if you ever want a guest or two on your podcast,
we'll definitely get you on. We'll
reach out. We would love to do it.
And for our audience, you got to check out Dan's podcast, The Art of Bombing. Very, very funny. Been on about as long as us. So there's a lot of episodes to go through. But if you really want to dig in, if the favorite part of our show is the funny bad gig story, and you want to hear more stuff and just a diversity of all different comics, because we've tended to kind of stick with East Coast comics. We had a couple of LA people and Vegas, but if you want to hear people from other parts of the country talking about what it's like to bomb, and because the fans of our show are sick and sadistic like we are, I'm sure they'd love to hear bombing stories. You got to check out Dan's podcast.
And you can go to Dan's website, danbublitzcomedy.com. I will put the link in today's show notes, so you can go on there, check out, his comedy, his podcast, everything. All the links are right there.
Absolutely, and we'll put all the links to everything. And like I said, check it out, Art of Bombing podcast. You will not be disappointed. I was laughing my ass off at the one today. So
definitely.
But Dan, thanks so much for being on with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks again. This was fantastic.
All right, awesome. We'll talk to you soon. And that was Dan.
Dan Bublitz.
That was so much fun. I knew, it's almost funny how we were destined to have him on our podcast after ending every show with a funny bad gig story and then him doing a whole episode.
The second I saw the name of the podcast, I was like, I have to find out whose podcast this is.
Yeah, right.
And I have to get this person on ours because this is destiny.
Yeah.
Because one of our favorite questions is our final question.
Right.
And he does a whole fucking podcast on it.
I like how he breaks it. I mean, we break it down too because we had that episode, but I like how he breaks it down.
Yeah.
In each episode too.
In a way, I was like, shit. Why didn't we think of that as a podcast?
I know.
What a great idea.
Yeah.
What a great idea. But it's a lot of fun. You guys know how much we love the funny bad gig story.
Yeah.
He takes it down to another level, and it's so good. So definitely check that out. And you guys, if you want to support the podcast, obviously 5-star written review wherever you download us.
Yep. Tell a friend about us.
Tell a friend about us.
That's the best way.
Another way you can support us is, of course, there is a link now in the show notes. It's Buy Me a Coffee. You can one-time donation.
Except for we don't buy coffee. We're gonna tell you right up front. You can buy us a coffee.
We're gonna be honest with you guys.
It's gonna be fucking bourbon.
It's called Buy Me a Coffee. We're not buying coffee.
No, we're buying bourbon.
We're putting it in the bourbon fund. But
or the magical beer fridge. As Mike McCarthy called it.
One of the two.
But we do appreciate the support any way you want to support us. And with that, you can do a one-time thing.
Yeah, it's a one-time, like giving us a tip. We would appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, folks, we got a lot of great guests coming up in 2023. And I love the fact, I said it last week, I love the fact that we're getting guests from elsewhere in the country. Maybe not household names, but this is what we've wanted. We've been asking the audience for a couple of years. Hey, if you know,
very interesting guests.
Yeah, if you know someone from other parts of the country, let's get them on. We'd love to have them on. And so Dan this week and Mike last week are two great guests that were from other parts of the country. So we really appreciate it, guys. And other than that, we will talk to you
next week.